Yeah, what page are we on?
Okay, let's go to this. For those who come to the Sunday classes or listen in, this is going to help, but never completely. Yes, here. Yeah, and extra copies for anybody else. We're on page 40 in Sefer Yetzirah.
40?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, still page 40. We don't get together enough, so God willing. So we had Eser Sfirot Blima. Is that me? Somebody online? Somebody's got me online. Somebody's on Facebook.
Your lecture went on.
Your lectures are so good, she has to hear it twice.
Okay. We're on.
I have volume off.
Okay, I'm going to shut this off and let's restart it.
My phone has been doing
It's all good. Not as weird as my phone. My phone's got a mind of its own. It just shuts off whenever. Like, we're done. We're done here. Okay. My phone does that. Like, I can't. We don't multitask. We're done. What?
Is it taping already?
No.
Okay. The thing that the catastrophe that happened in Muncie, my girlfriend, I went to her father was a rabbi, and I went to Yeshiva Beis Yaakov with her, and she called me up just a couple of days ago, and she said her son, who's in a wheelchair, goes to that shul or that house, and he wasn't there that night. He slept by his mother. He stayed home with his mother, and where Newman was sitting, that was his seat. That was the kid's seat. That's where he usually sat. And he's in detrimental, whatchamacallit right now, because he didn't get it in the beginning, and now he got it. If he was there and he's in a wheelchair, they wouldn't have been able to help him get out or anything.
Right.
It was a Nes Hanukkah.
We never know. We just don't
A
know.
Nes Hanukkah. That's
Hashem
where he goes, and that's
Hashem
his
should
seat,
help,
and he wasn't there.
Rabbi Newman.
Rabbi Newman. And
Okay.
Rabbi Newman sat in his seat that night.
Oh my.
Okay.
But Rabbi Newman was able to get up at his feet.
Hashem help us. We should see the Geula B'mheira Meinu, and everybody should be healed.
Amen.
Healing and for the entire world. Okay.
Amen.
Okay, so just to go back here, if you want to go back to page 38 and look at the Mishnah again, because we have to go back to it. Eser Sfiros Blima. As we know, every single chapter, every single Mishnah in this chapter, meaning these bullets, Mishnahs, these bullets, begins with the same wording. 10 Sfirot Blima, which means nothingness. That's how we translate it, which also means like without what. Meaning you're not going to figure out these Sfirot. Okay? But we have to, let's go on. And then we learned last week 10 and not 9, 10 and not 11. In other words, don't think that God is one of the Sfirot, and don't think that Keter is not one of them because it's so sublime. No, it's 10 and don't go anywhere else, okay? And God is above all of them. And then it brought the unbelievable technique of understand with wisdom and be wise with understanding. And we learned last time about the oscillating consciousness, and sometimes a person has to try to get themselves in a state of no thought, right? Meditation, if we could say such a word, okay, in our day and age. Some people are like, wow, what's that? They don't relate to it. Well, it really used to be a very common thing in Judaism, totally, right? It faded out around, 250, 150 years ago, you know? Okay, in any case, but just look at simply when we say understand with wisdom and be wise with understanding, of course those relate to the two sfirot of Chachma and Bina, number 1 and two and 3. And of course that you have to use them both in order to begin to reach a level of consciousness, to try to get yourself into the no thought zone, because we say that when you're in the no thought zone, that's when the real creative thoughts come and we become aware of what we're supposed to be doing. And the solutions to our problems as well. Now Rabbi Nachman does say in the first Torah of Likutei Moharan, he says that any time you're going to look at something, we have to understand that God built the world with wisdom. In other words, the very first Sefer brings down from the Sefer Tanya, God started with wisdom. And then the entire world was made with wisdom. There's incredible wisdom in everything. You just have to train your mind to see it. You have to focus and direct your mind to want to see that wisdom. That is the difference between us and Esav. Okay? Esav will look at it from it's coincidence, it's nature. We look for the wisdom of God in everything. Everything, and the way we look at it is this. I explained it that the way we always look at the Torah in the world, as we say that the Torah is the blueprint of creation, and it's not a blueprint that you could look into it. You make the plans like a person builds a house or a building, and then they put the plans away. We look at it like, according to Rabbi Akiva Tatz, you have a projector, you have a film, and then you have the screen. Everything is about that. And you can't know this enough. Because why? The screen is the world. The film is the Torah, and the projector is the light of God. When God said, let there be light. And then there was light. And all of the rest of the 10 statements. Everything is projected from that. Everything is constantly existing from those 10 statements of creation. But it's not like your film projector in your film. This is obviously one with depth, color, and dimensions, okay? This world. But it's all being projected through the Torah, constantly. That's why all the time, all the sages are always asking this, where is it in the Torah? And they always want to hook up, where is it in the Torah? Where is this hooked up in the Torah? What does the Torah say about that? What does the Torah say about that? What does the Torah say about that? Okay? So we always want to see where it is in the blueprint, and then we'll get a sense of what it is when we see where it is in the blueprint. Thank God we have the ability to be here, there, and there. We get to be in 3 places all at once. Okay? So the idea here is, though, the beginning of wisdom, the beginning is is the beginning. Bereshit, the very word Bereshit, many commentators translate it with wisdom. Reshit also means wisdom. Reshit Chachma. Okay? The beginning of wisdom is Yiras Hashem. So everything begins with wisdom. In other words, look at it as the light going through the film, projecting all of existence. So all of it really is wisdom. Our job, though, is to try to find and locate and connect ourselves with that wisdom. That is Yaakov Avinu versus Esav. That's the first Torah of Rabbi Nachman. Okay? So now, the rest of the Mishnah said, once you get a sense of what wisdom and understanding is, examine with them and probe from them. Those are the next words. Examine with them and probe from them. And the rest of the Mishnah says, make each thing stand on its essence and make the Creator sit on its base. So now what does it mean, examine with them? So now if you go back to page 40, examine with them. A similar expression is later used with regard to the lower sfirot. That means the lower 7 sfirot, right? As we know that we have 10 sfirot. The first 3 are called the mental sfirot, and the other 7 are called the emotional sfirot, or the lower 7 sfirot. As we know on this page, everybody knows anybody remember where that magic page was? I usually can find it faster here.
Oh, wait, is it this 129?
Yeah, I wanted to bring my 10 sphero chart.
Page 29?
There you go. Thank you very
Here,
much.
24.
Oh, 24.
No, 29 is better.
Okay, sure.
Here, so like we have here,
Yeah, sure.
the top 3. Really, there's a 4th one there, but we don't. And then there's the lower 7. Okay?
We could draw in the 4th one.
Pardon?
We could draw it in with dotted lines.
Yes, and it's done in another place. Okay? In any case, once an individual is able to experience the sfirot, he must make use of them to examine and test them. The author does not say examine them, but examine with them. The Hebrew word used here is bachan. That's a really great word, bachan. Okay?
How do you spell it?
With a Hebrew, or you want it in English?
Hebrew.
In Hebrew is Beit, Het, Vav, and Nun. Bachom. It's an unbelievable word. Okay? Rabbi Nachman uses it also a lot in all of his Torah, all of his teachings. When he'll say, he'll say, this is Bechina this is Bechina that. Bechina is the same thing. Bechina literally means aspect. That's how they in a surfacistic way, they translate it as aspect. Like, let's say, if a person is, let's say he overcomes a bad character trait, okay? He becomes Yeshua in the aspect of conquering the land of Israel. Now I changed the definition of aspect because it's hard for us to relate to.
Mm-hmm.
You see, because in a very dynamic way, there's really only one soul. If you be able to peel off all the masks of matter, there's really, in all of us, every single soul exists, past, present, and future. There is a Mashiach within all of us. As a matter of fact, the Baal Shem Tov says that. Baal Shem Tov says there's a piece of Mashiach, element of Mashiach in each individual, and it's our job to go ahead and enhance it and bring it out. How do you like that? Oh, what? Okay? And there's also a Yeshua, and there's also a Yosef, and a person overcomes temptation, he is in the aspect of Yosef. Now I rephrase it a little bit differently, and I tell people, you're in the program of Yosef. Imagine now if you would understand every single character in the Bible is a program or an operating system. We can use computers to help us. The idea of computers as a comparative kind of thing. That, let's say, Cain and Abel. Cain and Abel are the two basic paradigms of character personalities. Would you believe it? Okay? Cain is kinyan, me, I. It's ego. And Hevel is the exact opposite. It's all air. Hence his name. Cain or Cain means kaniti. Kaniti ish et Adam. When Chava gave birth, she said, I have acquired a man. But see, Cain is kinyan, it's acquire. Right? And that's one type of personality.
Acquisitive.
And then Hevel, which means air or vapor, is also another type of personality. Both of them exist within us. And all the rest. And there's an Avraham, and there's a Yitzchak, and there's a Yaakov, and there's a Moshe. All of them exist within us. So when we say like aspect, or bochein, or bachan here, okay? Here it means to test things. That's one definition. But the idea here is to like align yourself with the program. Align yourself with the formula. Align yourself with the energy. That's bachan. So the Hebrew word used here is bachan, and it means that one is to test things for their intrinsic quality as they are at the immediate moment. We're going to get into this, okay? When a person has an awareness of the Sefirot, okay, you have to learn these Sefirot. And you probably have learned them. If you haven't learned them already, okay, it's, we go through it all the time. The 7 days of the week correspond to the 7 lower Sefirot. That's usually easier. The 7 tzaddikim. There are 7 tzaddikim that we have the ushpizin in Sukkot, the holiday of Sukkot. Those 7 personalities correspond to the 7 Sefirot. Abraham is kindness, right? Yitzchak is Gevurah, number 3, number 1, 2, 3, 4, right? That's 5, right? 6 is Yaakov. Then you have Moshe. He's Netzach. And you'll see, if you really pay attention and look at the personalities of what they did in the Chumash, you'll get a sense of what the Sefirot are. And if you look at also what the days represent, what they are. Hod is a great one. Hod, right, represents Aaron. Aaron is empathy. What was created on the 5th day of creation? The birds. Don't say bees.
And the fish.
And the fish. The first creatures to actually have complete free movement. Every creature that was created, no one had free movement. They couldn't swim around or go. Trees are stay where they are, wherever they're rooted. The planets, they go around their cycle. Nothing before had free movement. The first. the Aaron, which is that kind of quality of empathy, allows for the person, he's the ultimate, what we call it, validator. Empathy, that's how he's able to make peace. He went to this person, he saw how he was feeling, he saw this person. Moses, on the other hand, was the opposite. Moses was, this is the truth, that's it. Take it or leave it. Just like the fourth day of creation, where God basically took the planets and says, hey, you, son, you got to go like this. Right? You just keep doing that for 100 billion years or whatever. Okay? You, moon, you got to go like this. That's it. You just keep spinning like that for 100 billion years. Okay? So, 15, whatever. So anyway, no. They, Baruch Hashem, they love doing what they're doing, and okay?
Doesn't make the muscles like...
We are the creatures of free will. Boy, we just were the wild card. We're the total wild card that came on the scene, and who knows what's going to be with creation. Okay? Free will. In any case, the idea here is once you get a sense of the Sefirot and understand them to some degree, okay, he can then examine anything in creation and determine the Sefirah to which it pertains. This is a very important thing to do. The idea really is we have to unhook ourselves from this world. I spoke about this on Sunday. Baal Shem Tov, he explained this great passage in the Talmud. Elijah the prophet was in the shopping mall with one of the sages. Sages was with Elijah. Right? Don't ask me what they were doing in the shopping mall. Okay, he had to buy some shoes. Okay. In any case, so he asks Elijah. He says, "Who here is destined for the next world?" One of these people. So Elijah says, "Those guys." So the sage went and followed them, chased them down, and grabbed them and asked them, "What do you guys do?" And they say, "We're comedians, right? We're badchanim. We make people laugh. We tell jokes." Okay? And so what's the point? How does that make a person a son of the next world? Someone who gets a portion in the next world to such a degree. And the Baal Shem Tov explained, amazing. He says, you know why? Because when they tell jokes, they make people laugh. So the people, even if it's just for a few moments, they forget about their problems. They unhook themselves from their attachment to this world. Okay? To unhook yourself, not to be so down, so enmeshed with the problems of this world. Okay? And to relieve somebody, even temporarily, for a moment, to just, don't take it too seriously. I'm just listening on the way here on the radio. I forgot who was talking about comedy is dead, and there's all these comedians coming in and say, they're killing comedy, because now you can't say a joke. You're gonna insult somebody, right? So that's not what comedy is about. Comedy actually comes from the highest of the 10 Sefirot. Comedy is Keter, the highest. Why? Because it takes something true and you quirk it a little bit way and twist it, and then everybody's like, you don't look at it so serious anymore, and then everybody could take a laugh at it, right? Like when I don't know about nowadays, but I always pick the in the shopping in the grocery store, you get a shopping cart, and I always got the one with the wobbly leg. I remember a comedian, he says, "How come I always get the one with the wobbly leg?" Oh, so then next time you go to the grocery store and you get the wobbly leg, you'll laugh. You don't get so upset. Okay? You're not attached to the things of this world. The idea of knowing the Sefirot is the same. You have to be able to look in around you and know what Sefirah every single thing hooks to in order to become disattached to this world. A chair is no longer a chair. What is a chair? What Sefirah does the chair hook up to? Let me ask you that question. Okay? So I think...
throne.
Yeah,
What?
very nice.
This chair does not exist.
What do you say?
You could say Malchut. It's Malchut, the last Sefirah, because it's the recipient, whoever sits in it, okay? Or if it's an empty chair, even better, okay? And even if it's a guy sitting, if it's me sitting in the chair, even better. If I empty myself, I should empty. We are, So the idea really here is malchut. And let's say, one of the things that really killed me in Hebrew, and it still does to this day, is that every single thing has either it's a masculine or a feminine, right? You know that? Right? Drives me bananas. If I want to say in plural, I always get it wrong and I always get corrected. Always.
Me too.
Right? Right? You can't say, so you say, like for pen is 8. Right? So what is the plural for pen? So it's not etot. Ot is feminine, right? You say itim.
The word is 8.
Masculine, 8.
8.
Right.
So
Right.
plural
It's
is
8.
16.
Or iparon. Iparon is a pencil, right? Efronot. Efronot, are you sure?
Yes.
You sure? Absolutely positive?
I don't know.
Okay, that's better. Okay.
Let's Google it.
It's Ephrono.
Okay, good, whatever. The idea here is if you know it's masculine and feminine, could help out. Kisaot is feminine. For chairs, shulchanot, it's feminine, right? Right? But some of them are masculine, you lose
Some have
it.
different
Hoffman
irregularities.
is a feminine.
I don't know who decided what, I don't know how it came to be, but that's what it is. The idea really here is,
Same way too.
oh, thank you.
Masculine and feminine.
I learned something every day. So really it's like almost 2 languages, because when you think about it, okay?
And probably Italian too.
The idea here is to hook up everything, based on what it is, to what sphera it belongs to. Now there's books on that. Okay, I tried to look up some of the sources that he brings, okay, but it was in part as Rimonim by the Ramak, and I couldn't find that chapter. And anyways, let's go on. The bottom of page 40. As he becomes proficient in doing this, he can use various things to strengthen his attachment to the associated sphera. When the Sefer Yetzirah, okay, so in other words, the idea here is to become attached to the sphirot, not to become attached to this world or the things of this world. When you walk in a room, you're able to size up, and definitely, the Baal Shem Tov brings us down, and I probably mentioned this before. I was in the synagogue of the Baal Shem Tov when I went to Medjibuj, right, in that Rosh Hashanah trip. And we were in the synagogue, and I finished what I was doing, my Tehillim and things, and I was waiting for the other guys. I picked up the Keter Shem Tov off the shelf, opened it up to the page, that whatever I saw. It was a Gavaltic Torah about when you're in a conversation with somebody, you have to be able to hook up that conversation with its appropriate sphera. Yeah, you have to know what you're talking about. And then you have to know which sphera you're talking about. Now, this is like, okay, so it's a little bit down the road, it might be too high. I don't like to shoot low. I need to always want to shoot as high as possible and not limit ourselves. But so at least we have a direction where we would like to go. So the idea would be if you're talking to people about mundane things, those mundane things do hook up to sphirot, and you should try to figure out what sphera you're talking about. Imagine now living such a life like that. You would be less attached to this world and more attached to the sphirot. Okay? When the Sefer Yetzirah was first written, each individual had to do this on his own. Now, however, there are many lists which associate various things and ideas with their appropriate sphirot, and these can be used as aids in binding oneself to them. Thank you very much. I tried to look, and couldn't find them. One is actually Gates of Light by Rabbi Yosef Gatia, who wrote 1,000 years ago in Spain. Gates of Light is one of the classic books, but once again, it's very hard to decipher and very hard. I can bring you an example, God willing, next time. It's called Gates of Light. Share Ora by Yosef Gikatil. It's written out Gikatila, Gikatila.
Okay.
But it's pronounced Gikatia.
Yeah, it's a Spanish sounding.
Yes, it is. He's from Spain. In any case, okay. So here we got examine with them. In other words, when it says examine with them in the Mishnah, when you approach any single thing in this world, you're going to try to figure out, A, in the higher realm, what's the wisdom? 2, what's sphera? Probe from them. This is an interesting one. Why is it different now? It changes. Examine with them and probe from them. The Hebrew word for probe here is chakar, which usually indicates attaining the ultimate knowledge of a thing, which I never understood that. Chakira, which means basically the way they understand Chakira is examine. Okay?
Also research.
Yeah, a research, exactly. Right? So the Sefer Yetzirah says that one should probe from them as a result of the spiritual power that one attains from the Sefirot. One should probe each thing to its ultimate depth. Through one's experience of the Sefirot, one is to gain the deepest possible insight into everything in the world. Okay, note carefully that the Sefer Yetzirah does not tell us to contemplate the Sefirot themselves, because that you cannot figure out. Rather, it instructs us to use them in developing an inner sight with which to view the world. It's all about the inner sight. Here, so I've got this, I don't know, I wrote this idea here down. It's pretty interesting, okay? Once, I don't know why I wrote the word Ari, got glasses, he saw the tree. In other words, you didn't see this tree until he got glasses. First, we attach a thing to its sphera, and then we use the sphera to get to the depths of a thing. That's basically what's being said here, okay?
Oh.
So basically, there's 10 pairs of glasses, okay? So once you pick which kind of glasses, then you can examine the object with those glasses, okay? So you imagine the 10 sefirot as 10 sets of glasses. Which glasses am I going to use this with? And then you are able to examine that thing with the sefira itself, okay? So let's say if I wanted to look at a fish, okay? So, you want to look at a fish and how it moves and what it does and how, how long is it out of water till it starts to smell.
And what it symbolizes?
And, well, it comes from the sphera of Hod, fish. And birds come from the sphera of Hod because they're free-moving entities, right? So then you'll be able to understand something more about them in terms of a deep thing for you to learn. Don't forget, it's for us, every single thing is for us to connect to God. The idea here is to have to peel off the mask of matter. Things are not what they appear to be and to become disattached. And like I say, it's a training, okay? But once you have this training and understanding that every single thing hooks up to the 10 sefirot, every single thing, like a projector, the film, and the screen. The 10 sefirot, the film is those 10 sefirot, okay? In a certain way, in a certain aspect. Every single thing that's projected from that film has to hook up to one of the 10 sefirot. Which one does it hook up to? And therefore we become more disattached to the world and more attached to the spiritual world, because it's very important to do that, especially nowadays, because things are going to start to get rocky. Okay, because Mashiach's going to come, and everything's going to start to get wavy and shaky, and you got to, not be too attached. Okay? Now, this is for the purpose of what do we need to do these things? Okay? Make each thing stand on its essence. That's why. In this manner, one can learn how to perceive the essential nature of a thing. That's the purpose. The Sefer Yetzirah says, make each thing stand on its essence, so as to parallel the next phrase, which is, make the Creator sit on its base. The Sefer Yetzirah is also indicating here that when a person perceives the true spiritual nature of a thing, he also elevates that thing spiritually. Of course, because not only you become disattached to the world, but you elevate that thing as well. Okay? The biggest thing that Rabbi Nachman brings down, Reish Pei Beis 282, Likutei Moharan, is one of the most dynamic Torahs of Rabbi Nachman, and one of the most important teachings, is to judge everybody favorably on the balance of merit. And he goes as far to say, is if you see a wicked person, right, then you have to find and search and seek, and you have to use all of the powers that you have to find the little bit of good that is in him. When you find a little bit, you have to use your powers of perception. It's all about perception. Really, this world, right now,
And the balance
the crisis of the world is a crisis of perception, how you see it. Okay? And it's a war now. It's now turned into a war of perception. How do you see it? I mean, really, the current events, it's just amazing. That you could, I mean, I'm telling you that they killed up this main terrorist, and, you know, I didn't take a census of how many people are going, yes, and yet here I am at a place today that people are so upset about it, okay? And how you can have people who are upset about it, and you can have people who are happy about it, okay? Just to see the dynamic. We're not going to get involved in that conversation because thank God for God, He runs the world, okay? But the idea here is perception, okay? But here Rabbi Nachman goes in this Torah is when you see the wicked person, and that's not a wicked person who's 8,000 miles away, okay? Who got a bomb in his car or a bad guy, okay? Is somebody in your sphere of experience. You see, you have to search and find a little bit of good, and Rabbi Nachman goes, when you find that little bit of good, you actually have elevated him. You have actually taken him from his place of wickedness, and you have raised him up with your power of perception. Can you imagine? Mm-hmm. It's so dynamic. See, the biggest thing is we're more powerful than we think. You don't want to just, you know, get yourself to feel better. You want to help that person. You want to help that person, right? You kind of find a little bit of good that he does. And when you find that good, you've actually physically elevated him. Here is like in a general thing. You actually, when a person perceives the true spiritual nature of a thing, he also elevates that thing spiritually. Yosef and the brothers is a huge thing. Yosef and the brothers, you know, he says, you know, you guys didn't sell me. Mamish is able to say that. That's unbelievable. Okay? So he elevated the whole situation. When normally, in normal circumstances, that's, you know, I have to throw this out. You know, as soon as Yosef was born, Yaakov was ready to go back. And then why? Right? It's like he's married to Rachel, he's married to Leah, he's having kids, he has a job, he's working for Lavan. And as soon as Yosef is born, he goes to Lavan, I want to go back. And that's when they made a new deal. Okay, let me just hire you for your wage. And until like 6 years later, then he says, no, you know, he had to leave. But why as soon as Yosef was born, he wanted to go back? Because Yosef is known to be the anti-Esav. He was the one force. Once Yosef is born, now I can take on my brother. Even though he's just born. What's the force of Yosef? It's a lot of commentaries, a lot of different opinions, but my Rosh Yeshiva answered this. Very amazing. Because Yosef was able to say to his brothers with such emunah, you didn't sell me, it was God. God paved the way for me to go ahead and be here in all my situations so I could take care of everybody. So it was like, and it was with a full heart. You understand? Not a bad bone. Esav can't stand that. Because Esav is too enmeshed in, you know, revenge or whatever have you. Or they hold it back, grudges, nature, right?
The dark side.
They can't handle that. To that degree of emunah, they can't handle. Okay? So the idea here is that level of emunah, to make every single thing that you're walking, your consciousness is so elevated, you're not imagine waking up in the morning going, today is the perfect day for unbelievable mystical experiences, one after the other. Imagine your day is walking through mystical experiences in the Shekhinah, and everything you'll sing is part of the Shekhinah, and you hook it up to its source and completely just work on elevating it. Huh? Right? So standing, when it says make each thing stand on its essence, it means standing refers to such an elevating. Standing, get up. That's what the language is. I'm on that paragraph here where it says make each thing stand on its essence, the second paragraph. The Sefer is also indicating here that when a person perceives the true spiritual nature of a thing, he also elevates that thing spiritually. That's what our whole purpose is for. Standing refers to such elevation. The expression make each thing stand, meaning get up, therefore says that when one probes from them, meaning he probes from the Sefer itself, he elevates the thing that he probes. He uses the Sefer of Malchut and he stares at the chair, but don't do this in front of people because then they might commit you. Okay? But but if to stare at, to gaze or something like that, is one of the a technique of meditation. Okay? Because to make it stand on its essence. Okay? Now, for the purpose of what? Make the Creator sit on its base. The Hebrew word for base here is machon. Okay? V'heshev yotzer al machono. And in a number of places, it is seen as the place where God sits. Thus, in his prayer, King Solomon speaks of the heaven, the base, which is machon, of your sitting. And notice how this is Rabbi Kaplan, and he does this, and it's a classic for a lot of commentaries. He goes from different places, and he's going to see where's machon here, where's machon here, and where's machon here. So the word machon means sitting, and he brings another place, righteousness and judgment are the base of your throne. In other places, the Bible speaks of the temple as being the base on which God sits, the machon. Okay? So, the word machon comes from the root chon, which is also the root of the word hechin, which means to prepare. Hence, machon refers not merely to a physical base, but to one that is specifically prepared for a special purpose. Once again, to draw into us the concept of emunah, everything has a purpose. Okay? And to figure out the purpose of it is what we have to do. We might not get to it in the end. You might not be able to figure it out, but you have to try. Okay?
Is home spelled with a chet or a
Chet.
chaf?
Chaf.
That's a
Chon. Chon. Chaf. Yud Nun.
It could be
Or
CH.
Chaf Vav Nun.
No, it's a
Nun
chaf.
Sofi. Chon.
It's a K. It's a K.
The purpose thus says, he founded the earth on its base, which means this verse indicates that everything in the physical world has a specific spiritual counterpart and basis to which it can be elevated. Once again, every single thing in this physical world has a counterpart in the spiritual world. Like I say, we use the metaphor of the projector screen and the film. Okay? We want to hook it up to the root all the time. Okay? In general, the anthropomorphism sit, when used with respect to God, indicates a sense of lowering. This is a very dynamic idea. When a person sits down, he lowers his body. Similarly, when God sits, he lowers, quote unquote, his essence so as to be concerned with his creation. That's very important, especially on Rosh Hashanah, when we say HaMelech. Okay? Oh, what was that word I learned? Interesting. HaMelech is one of those big things before Baruch Hu, right? In the morning service of Rosh Hashanah. It's in big words, HaMelech. That's the whole avoda of the day, the whole thing of the day. HaMelech Yoshev al Kisei Ram V'Nisa. The Melech sits on his Kisei, right? On his exalted throne, right? Interesting how, I don't know if your shul, some shuls, I think the shuls that I'm exposed to, the person who's going to be the prayer leader has to begin saying HaMelech where he is. He doesn't go up there and then start HaMelech. He has to be where he is. Do you remember why? Do you remember why?
To lower?
What?
He has to be lowered?
Because we're going to forget the prayer leader who's going to now go up and pray for everybody. He has to be with everybody, because it's not you're going to go up there and make Hashem the king. You have to make him down here the king, inside. Okay? Every single thing that we do is about making God the king in our lowest of places. So he begins from where he sits with the kahal, with the tzibor, with the community, and then he begins that, because this is where you have to make God king. Okay? That means, just like that great story by Rabbi Yehuda Fataya, on Rosh Hashanah night, right? Somebody knocks over the candles. He's got the whole entourage of guests, and he's in his big white robe, and somebody knocks over the candles, and it's dark. And he goes, this is from the king, Baruch Hashem. It's a decree of the king, period. And then his wife comes in with a tray of fish, and because it's dark, she spills, and the tray of fish goes on the ground. It's from the king. Total acceptance. This is a decree of the king. It must be, it's good. And then he goes and helps his wife. Of course, it gets on the fish, spills, and he gets it all over him because the fish grease is everywhere. It's my ultimate nightmare. Okay? Me and fish. Okay? And he goes, decree of the king, Baruch Hashem. He accepted, make sure, especially Rosh Hashanah, accept every single thing from God. That's why they say, don't get angry on Rosh Hashanah. Watch out. Accept. It's from the king, decree of the king. Even that annoying person who sits next to you who wants to bother you in the middle of prayers. Right? What paint? What's going on here? Right? So whatever. Now, Halavai, they would ask you what page. Usually it's like, did you see the news today? Right? So it's like, my wife was like that, and it was amazing. She sat next to the ultimate winner of the universe who just couldn't stop interrupting. In any case, decree of the king. The Rabbi Yehuda Fataya said that year, he had unbelievable help from heaven in all of the projects that he wanted to do. He was able to accomplish them so easily and speedily. He had the most blessed year of all. Okay? So you got to do that every day. Okay? Make the king sit. So in other words, so the idea here is, it's amazing how, because it's really a Hasidic teaching, is you got to see God everywhere. There's God in this, God's in that, God is in this, God is in that, God is in this. And we talk about that in the Shema. There's a law in the Shema that if a guy repeats the Shema, you whack him over the head. If a guy says, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, Shema Yisrael Hashem, and he wants to say it again, you whack him with a sledgehammer. Not even a sledgehammer, the anvil hammer, which is harder. What are you doing? Why are you whacking him with a hammer? The guy didn't concentrate the first time. Let him say it again. So it's really, the Baal Shem Tov interprets it completely different. Okay? It means God is really everywhere, even in your thoughts. That means if you said the Shema and your thought might have been wandering on buying tomatoes at Belden since they were on sale, 30% off. Okay? Or whatever. Okay? And you're saying the Shema, that too comes from God, and there's God in that very thought. And to repeat the Shema is making a statement that God was not in that thought. And therefore you're taking God out of the picture of being all there is. That is antithetical to Judaism. God is everywhere, even in the thoughts. And therefore to repeat the Shema twice is a no-no. Okay? So therefore, the sledgehammer really is the thought that hit you of buying tomatoes at Belden's is the sledgehammer. Okay, that's not really you hit the guy with a sledgehammer, but it's taken as like, dude, you have to elevate that thought. God put that, even that thought there's godliness in it. Okay, in every single thing there's godliness. Okay, so. We got sits. He lowers his essence in the creation. So when we say on Rosh Hashanah, God sits on the throne, and every time you'll know this now. It's weird that, I had a student of mine I taught in another city, and I told him about Ein Sof and Or Ein Sof and the light of the infinite, and it just completely shifted his whole mind because he really did think God was some dude sitting on a throne in the sky, and he was a Jewish guy. Okay? Really what it means is when we sit in a chair, we lower ourselves. When God sits in a throne, it means he's lowered himself, meaning he's involved. Okay? It just means that. When the Bible speaks of God's throne, it is speaking of the vehicle through which he expresses such concern, that he's involved in creation. In Kabbalah, there's a general rule, okay, that every awakening from below motivates an awakening from above. Thus, when a person mentally elevates each thing to its spiritual essence, he also brings spiritual sustenance, shefa, down to that particular object. Okay? This is almost like nuclear physics. Because the atoms, they say, everything is relative. And the atoms, depending upon when you approach the atoms or the subatomic particles, they do the dance that they perceive what you want them to do, and they'll do the dance based on your mind. This way or that way. They'll dance this way, they'll dance that way, based on your observation. Okay? Unbelievable. Okay? So the idea here is when we use our powers of perception, right? That's what he says here. When a person mentally elevates each thing to its spiritual essence, he also brings spiritual sustenance down to that particular object. This sustenance can then be channeled and used by the individual. Under some conditions, this can be used to actually bring about physical changes in the world. Okay? That was once a great story. I'll end off with this. The Baal Shem Tov, he was able to perceive in any single thing in creation, like specifically somebody who made it, he can tell you about the person who made it by looking at it. So there was once this story where there was a barrel there. I don't know what if it was sitting on the table or it was over there. There was a barrel, and he says the guy who made this barrel, he doesn't have feet. Right? The guy was missing feet. Right? And they go, how did you know, Rabbi? Because I see it. I see the barrel. And then as soon as he said that, the barrel broke. It busted. Okay? So the idea, right, is like, what? Okay? Right? So the idea, though, of course, you don't want to make barrels break, especially it has expensive things in it. But the idea here is, imagine, once again, it opens the doorway to how moldable things are in the world. Nothing is in stone. Everything can be elevated, and it all starts with our perception and how we view it. So therefore, we have to now study the Sefirot and be able to look at the entire world through those glasses. We'll stop here. Okay?